let's get into measuring money. So the Federal Reserve Bank is what is considered the central bank of the U.S. So they are in charge of bank regulation, monetary policy. They're the ones that issue currency, set reserve requirements, lend out money, manage open market operations. A lot of this stuff will be covered in the next chapter. But basically, what the Federal Reserve is trying to do is basically they are the manager of the banks. So they're the ones that set the rules. And so we do have different definitions of money. Like it's classified as different things. And it all depends on its liquidity. Liquidity is basically how liquid or how liquid something is basically how quickly can an asset be turned into cash or a medium of exchange. So liquidity, how quickly assets can be turned into a medium of exchange. So M1 is going to be the most liquid. So that's going to include currency, checking accounts, savings accounts, and then it's going to go and it's going to change from there. So the higher up we go, the less liquid it is. So M1 is looking at coins and currency in circulation. Cash money is already a medium of exchange. This is the most liquid asset that you could have. The coins and bills that circulate in an economy that are not held by the U.S. Treasury or at the Federal Reserve, like the ones that are actually out and about being used, like in the cash register, like that's not the bank, so that is in circulation. So we're going to count that. We're going to count any checkable deposits. This is a checking account that you have at a bank. So if you could write a check and then use your debit card, okay, this is going to be M1 because you can easily access your money. Savings accounts used to be M2. Before April 24th of 2020, savings accounts were not part of M1. Limitations in the number of transfers from savings deposits made savings less liquid than M1. However, because of times changing, the limitation on the number of these transfers was lifted on April 24th as an amendment of Regulation D, which specifies how banks must classify deposit accounts. So therefore, beforehand, savings accounts was M2. Now, savings accounts is M1. It's very important. Savings deposits is M1. And the last one is going to be traveler's checks. Traveler's checks is a prepaid fixed amount which operates like cash. So if you were traveling to a different country, you can go to your bank and you can say, can I get a traveler's check of $5,000? And so basically, instead of you carrying around cash of $5,000, you have this traveler's check that you can have with you, which is similar to $5,000. Very rare do people buy these, especially nowadays. But it is still a pretty liquid asset. M2 is going to be money market accounts, which is deposits. The deposits of many investors are pooled together and invested in a safe way, like short-term government bonds. So basically, what happens here is you have a group of people and they all want to invest into this bond. Let's say it's $1 million bond, but you don't have $1 million, but everybody together has $1 million. So what you do is you take your money and you put it into this mutual fund or this money market fund, and then y'all all invest in this bond. Now this is less liquid because how can you get your money back? Well, if you're all investing in this, you can't just sell the asset because not everybody wants to sell. So in order to get your money back, you might have to say, hey, can you give me my $100, so I can get my $100 from the bond, and that's going to take some time before you finally convert it to cash. So M2. Another one's going to be CDs or other time deposits. These are an account that the depositor has committed to leaving in the bank for a certain period of time in exchange for a higher rate of interest. So you might see these on billboards where there's like 5% CD rates. This is not a CD like a disc. This is a certificate of deposit, which says if you store your money in my bank for 5 years, I will pay you 5% interest. And this is pretty good interest rate. You can't really earn 5% in a regular checking account or a savings account. Usually it's like a 1% on a savings account. So if you get a CD at 5%, it's going to take you 5 years before you can access your money. So that's why it's called M2. Please note that credit cards, debit cards, or smart/gift cards are different ways of moving money when you make purchases. So even though we might have more credit cards or debit cards, this does not change the quantity of money. Okay, and basically, it's just because you have more checks doesn't mean you have more cash. Just because you have more debit cards does not mean you have more cash. Money is linked to the bank account, how much money you have there, not about how many debit cards you have. And then finally, M3 is going to be everything in M2. Okay, so that's the thing, is that M2 is everything in M1 plus the money market fund and the CDs. So all the money there. M3 is going to be everything in M1 and M2 and these large time deposits. So basically, if you could buy a CD for, like, let's say $50,000, but if you wanted to buy a CD for $1 million, okay, that's going to be a large time deposit. That's going to be a lot harder to turn into cash if you bought a CD for $1 million. It's going to take you a lot longer to do that. This also could be institutional money market funds, same idea as money market funds, but just a little bit more steps involved to get money back. Or short-term repurchase agreements, or larger liquid funds. So these are going to be M3. Everything in M2 and in M1. So M3 is going to be all of that, plus these large time deposits. M1 is just cash, checking accounts, savings accounts. M2 is everything in M1, plus the money market funds and the CDs. So very important. It's kind of like smaller, bigger, right? You still have the M1 in the core, and then you have M2, and then you have M3, which already has M2 and M1. So very, very important that they're not separate. They're all kind of encased within each other. All right, so in the next video, we'll talk about the role of banks. I'll see you there.